Hi there, welcome back to CKM Red Rugby League. I'm Matty and that's Luke, and we're here to preview round 6 of the NRL. As you can see, both donning the beanies in support of the Beanies for Brain Cancer. And without further ado, let's get into it. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, good, mate. For those that don't know, we'll kick it off with this. I may or may not have slept through my alarm by about half an hour. So, not bad. Happy I got the extra half hour of sleep, but I think I owe Matty a bit of an apology for that one. How are you, mate?
I'm going good, mate. I'm going good. Yeah, can't complain. But right, let's jump straight into it, and we'll start off with the Knights against the Broncos. The Knights pretty much an unchanged side. I think we both tipped the Knights in this one, didn't we, for obvious reasons?
Yeah, we did. Kurt Mann, I think, is the only worry with his ankle. He's been named in the 6, but to be determined. It was a pretty bad ankle sprain by the looks of it. But they think if the swelling goes down, he's got a chance. If he doesn't make it, one would imagine that Tex Hoy will jump into there, but they've also got Phoenix Crossland in the 20.
Yep.
Just as cover. Look, I need to apologise to the Broncos. I absolutely bagged them last week, said they had no chance, that this was a shocking team, and then they come out and put 18 points on Manly in the first 25 minutes. It was some of the best that the Brisbane have played all year, but they were around for one half. Manly were able to come back, and considering that this Knights side, yes, they got I won't say pumped, but comprehensively beaten across the park by the Storm last week. They're going to look to come back strong. They're coming up against a Broncos team that's down on confidence, a very young Broncos team at that, and I think it's going to be tighter than some think. But and you've got Bradman Best coming up against Herbie Farnworth. Farnworth not the world's most solid defender. Kalen Ponga is going to attack those edges. Tavita Pangai Jr. does return, but out of match fitness, I think the Knights got this one by a couple of converted tries.
Yeah, so I went with the Knights. I think this one's going to be won and lost on the edges. Interesting. Do you know what? I honestly don't know why they've put Oates to the wing and Farnworth as a centre. If I'd have put Farnworth to the wing, Oates in the centre, and that way it's a little bit of cover against Bradman Best. I mean, you're putting up Herbie Farnworth, who's had a handful of NRL games against one of the form centres in the comp right now in Bradman Best. And then on the other side, you've got one of the battles that I'm really looking forward to, and that is Xavier Coates, finally got his name out. Xavier Coates coming up against Edric Lee, two really good players in the air. It's going to be a war out on that flank. Kicks going out that way constantly. It's going to be a tough one out there, but I just don't see the Broncos coming out on top in this one. You look at their bench, New, Teo, Offengawe and Flegler. You've got another utility in there. They say, it's the same setup as what the Knights have gone for, but I just don't see them having the edge in this one to a man. And the Knights bolstered by a returning Lachlan Fitzgibbon as well. So I'd tip the Knights by maybe a converted try, maybe more.
Yeah, Alex Glenn coming back for the Broncos gives them a little bit of brute on that edge, but yeah, Farnworth v Best. Best will get the best. No pun intended. Best will get the best of him there. Coates probably has the best of Lee, but Ponga, Mann, Pearce, they're just going to pepper Corey Oates on that. What is that? The right side of the Newcastle line, and yeah, I think if they're able to get a couple in between Oates and Farnworth, then it's going to be game over.
Yeah. Okay, so we will move on to the Rabbitohs versus the Warriors then. Again, we were unanimous in this one, both of us tipping the Rabbitohs. I was a little bit reluctant to back against the Warriors because every time I do, it's one of their form weeks, and they're so rocks and diamonds this season. I like the week before last, they go for 40. They hit a new NRL record for most completed sets. Then the week after, they get undone by a pretty depleted Cowboys side, and then last week again 40 out of 46 completions. So it's really a case of which Warriors side turns up. I mean, if it's the Warriors side from last week, the Rabbitohs, I don't see them hanging on. But if we're going on good game, bad game, good game, bad game, they're due a bad game this week.
Yeah, most definitely. And yeah, the Bunnies last week got back Latrell Mitchell. Got back Cody Walker, and it was Latrell Mitchell's best game by a country mile in the fullback position. He's starting to look like a fullback. Had a handy combination there with Reynolds, Walker, Cook. Set up a beautiful try on the left side for Alex Johnson. The Warriors just they're either the most exciting team in the comp to watch, or they make you want to pull your hair out. There's no in between on that one. Both teams won the same squads in the 17 from last week. James Roberts potentially coming in later in the week, as would David Fusatua coming back from injury. One would think he takes out Adam Pompey. I think for me it's going to be one right through the guts. This is a forward pack for the Warriors that is probably just a touch underrated. Tanua Brown has been fantastic in his debut season. Wade Egan, some handy distribution for him. Lachlan Burr has been good at prop. Eli Katoa, early contender for Rookie of the Year. Tohu Harris, oh man, Tohu Harris is just a beautiful player to watch. And Adam Blair, coming up on 320 games now. I think he's just sneakily got over 300 with no one noticing. And he's playing some really good football for the Warriors. But then you look at the Rabbitohs pack, you got Ethan Lowe, who's a former Origin player, Cameron Murray, current Origin and Kangaroo star, Jaden Sewer, who's starting to rattle himself into form, Thomas Burgess, who the last couple of weeks has been superb, Damien Cook's just starting to find his feet under Wayne Bennett, Tavita Totola's starting to look really good. We can credit the backs all they want, but the forwards are the ones that do the damage to get the backs into the position. And I think we've both gone the Rabbitohs here, but whoever's forward pack gets the upper hand in this one is going to get the win.
Yeah. I mean, the only sort of potential weak spot I see out in the Rabbitohs side is Braden Burns out on that edge with Johnston. Like that edge doesn't seem to be holding up too well as opposed to the Gagai Graham combination. But then again, when Roberts comes back in, it's going to be, it's going to be a different setup altogether. So we'll have to wait and see. But I'm relatively confident in the Rabbitohs this week.
Yeah, whenever Roberts comes in,
okay. So
he
then
does take
we
up
will.
Burns. But I think given time, like Burns is still a relatively good defender, all things considered. So I think the Bunnies get this one. It'll be closer than people think. I think it might be 4 points, but I think the Bunnies get this.
Yeah, it's going to be tighter than a lot of people expect. If Nikorima and Green can control the game again like they did last week, then I'd even potentially lean towards the Warriors by maybe a couple points here or there. But I'm fairly certain in myself when I say that the Warriors based on. I mean, neither one of these sides has struggled to get a back-to-back victories this season so far. So, it's one of them's gonna basically right that wrong this week, unless we get another after Golden Point draw. But I don't see that happening. Unless that one makes the highlight reel for next week when I say I don't see that happening, and then it's a draw after full time. Okay, so we'll move to the Panthers versus the Storm. This is the first one that we've had a disagreement on. I've gone Panthers, you've gone Storm. What's your thought process?
Storm are 1-17. They've looked better the last couple of weeks. Cameron Smith had an absolute belter of a game, so he's back in a form. Ryan Pappenhausen hasn't had the season that a lot of us expected. But he's just he's coasting through it right now. He's there. He's making some good plays. Had a fantastic tackle on the goal line against Kalen Ponga. The Storm, I still don't think look superb, but they played their best 40 minutes against the Knights in the first half last week. They're just starting to get into that flow of this new 6-again rule. They're just starting to get rolling. They've played Brandon Smith as a starting prop the last couple of weeks, and it's worked. He's much more mobile than Christian Welsh. Dale Finucane, I think, is starting to relish the 6-again rule. Cam Smith is able to dart 3-4 meters out of dummy half and pass either side. This is a tough one. The betting odds are well in favour of Melbourne. I think, credit to the Panthers. They were the better side against Parramatta last week and just didn't get the box of chocolates. The thing that kind of leans me towards Melbourne is that they have Jerome Hughes somehow named in the reserves list. I didn't think it was going to be back for another couple of weeks. But he's a chance to come back from a broken hand. And the Panthers have Matt Burton on the bench still. And it's something that I've spoken about with a couple of people. And having that utility is fine. Like, don't get me wrong, we see it with the Knights right now. But with how Cleary uses Burton, he pulls Luai and puts Burton on instead of having Luai or Burton as like a roaming forward. So if they're pulling the halves combination again and Cleary has to, look up thinking he's passing to Luai and sees Burton there, we saw that kind of threw him off his game a little bit in the last 20 minutes, and that's when Parramatta capitalised. I think the same thing happens here. But look, it's not going to be by much. Melbourne maybe by 6 points.
Yeah, so I still look at the Panthers as probably one of the most dangerously underrated teams in the comp. Like, regardless of where they are on the ladder right now, I don't think they've found their best yet, and they're still looking really good. So they've got Edwards back, named as the fullback. He's been out for a while, so he's going to come in. He's going to find that spine up a little bit as well. Martin comes in. He had a really good game against the Eels. I think I have the same concerns over the Burton selection as you do. I don't think that necessarily the Storm are a team you want to play a utility against. I think if you're going to try and beat them, the Storm are going to want to play around the ruck. I mean, you got Asifa Solomona and Fasim Malawi on the bench. That's two huge bodies. They're going to come in sort of 20, 25 minutes in, and they're just going to shake the whole game up. You're going to need you need an enforcer in there. Coruscant's been doing a good job in and around the ruck. Probably the best. I'm going to call it right now. Probably the best 9 in the comp so far for me. Like, he's come in, and he's done wonders at the Panthers. Like, if you look at the Panthers a season ago, maybe 2 seasons ago, they were a little bit shaky around the ruck. Coruscant's come in. He knows when to run. He knows when to pass. The only problem for me with the Panthers is, two problems. You got Burton selection, and then Crichton. I worry that he'll be a target again this week based on the fact that Wonga Blake managed to show him up. If you look at who Crichton comes up against, powerful ball runner in Justin Olam, that's going to be a big battle. If the Panthers win that and they keep that edge shored up, then I think they've got a better chance. But for me, I think the Storm are due a bad game. They've played so well in these last few rounds that I think they're due a slip up, and I think they're about to hit a Panther-shaped banana skin in that one. So, yeah, Panthers for me. It's going to be tight though.
I hope not. I really hope that Melbourne slip up against the Parramatta Eels. The thing that the Panthers could do before we move on very quickly, they've got Brent Naden in the 19. He's too good of a player to be outside of the Panthers 17. I couldn't care what anyone tells me. Brent Naden should be in that 17 one way or another. He's a much better defender than Stephen Crichton. He's played against Olam before. They could take Crichton out, put him in Burton's spot, use Crichton with how they did in the first couple of games as a roaming back, potentially give Edwards 55, 60 minutes, pull Edwards, make sure that he's not hurt, make sure he's got through the game cleanly, put Crichton in as that impact fullback. But Naden's got to be in there for me.
Yeah. I don't know what he's done to be out of the squad. 'Cause I really liked him when he first burst onto the scene, and thought he looked really good as well. So I don't know. It's just one of those things, unfortunately for him. He'll get his shot, but it's just not this week for me. Okay, so Titans versus Dragons. If you came to me on Monday and said who you're tipping in this one, I think I'd have gone Titans, but it looks like the Dragons have learnt from last week's mistakes, from last week's sort of well-learned lessons, and they've come out and they've embraced their new setup by the looks of things. Great, Hunt 14 jersey. What's your thoughts?
Fine with it. Absolutely love it. And I think I said it in the round review on whenever we did that. It was yesterday. Ben Hunt can be $1 million number 14 in my side any day of the week if he plays like how he did, and if the Dragons play like how they did for the 60 minutes that Ben Hunt is on the field. Sadly, I can't say sadly for McInnes, because playing the 9 for 20 minutes allows him to get a feel for the game. And then when Ben Hunt comes on, he jumps into we'll say a rolling lock. Not an out and out lock in terms of attack, but he's the middle defender and a very strong defender at that. And he's got nifty little footwork that we saw on the weekend against the Sharks, can and will get around defenders, especially close to the line. Hunt's contract, I think, comes up next year. I don't think he's going to get offered $1 million, but I have a gut feeling that the Dragons will offer him and say, look, we think you're the long-term hooker. Here's $700. If you want to play hooker, come play hooker for us. If you want to play halfback somewhere else, go for it. But we see it with Queensland. We see it with Dragons now. Hunt is the hooker. He shouldn't be starting. McInnes should always be the starting hooker. I don't just say that because of my Supercoach team. But Ben Hunt has a fantastic impact off the bench. McInnes, when he moves into the 13 in the second half, just plays like a man with a bat out of hell. Lomax is starting to look good. Dufty has to play at fullback. We said that Monday. He's there. Clune looks solid. Norman looked great. Look, for all that we credit the Titans, they've got Corey Thompson there, moving up from the Tigers, slotting straight into the fullback role.
We're on the same wavelength on that one. As soon as I saw Thompson named in the side, I'd swung straight in the Dragons' favour. Like, you've got someone that's going to come in, not really trained with the team, doesn't understand the setup or even how their style of play is played, and you're going to put him in your one jersey. Like, I get that there's been a lot of changes at the Titans, and they've done a lot of tinkering with their spine in particular. You know what, they've played 4 different number 9s this season. I'm pretty sure, or even at least in the last 12 months. So it's a tough one. You've got 2 teams that have realistically been out of form for quite some time. The Dragons may be just starting to find it again. But for a game that's this important, why put Thompson straight back in? Straight in, sorry. When you've got a fullback. Why are you? I get that he's a makeshift fullback, but I don't think that this would have been the best time to put Thompson in. Even so, I don't think anyone would have been dead against Thompson maybe pulling on the 14 and you're sticking on at halftime based on how the game's going, and you reshuffle your back line a little bit. But it throws the game way out of whack for me, does this?
The thing I think that we can recognise is Philip Sammy has played very, very well in the fullback position the last couple of weeks for the Titans. He's in some good form, but he wants to play wing. He has made it very clear he wants to play on the wing. Yeah. Bringing Thompson up, Thompson is happy to play fullback. He's not a ball-playing fullback, but he's one that wraps around in support, is always darting around the ruck. You have no fullback this year. AJ Brimson is out for the season. Yeah. They've been looking to play Tyrone Roberts, but I think it's come to a point where Roberts could almost medically retire. Injuries are just taking a toll on his body. You could put young Tonomapia back there. He did play fullback for a couple of games for the Storm way back when, but yeah, I'm looking at it. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I do think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I think it could be like 30 to 20, 30 to 24. If I had to take a guess, Brian Kelly, a solid defender, young Tonomapia, solid defender, but Don and Sammy try to jam in. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Ravalawa and or Pereira score a double this week. I'm going the Dragons by 10, but it's going to be a high scoring 10. It could be 36-26, 30-20, something like that. Yeah,
this one's going to be won and lost in the halves. Whichever team comes out with the better distribution and the better completion rate in this one wins for me. Because as you've seen with the Titans, the previous week they had more possession but did less with it. And it's just because they struggle to find their edges and they struggle to get their point scorers over. So I think if the Dragons do manage to wedge in and keep them out, I think that the Dragons by at least 8.
Yeah.
Okay, next one. This one, I reckon, is going to turn a few heads. Tigers, Cowboys. We both reluctantly went Tigers because I think this one's the toughest one to call this week.
I said it. Sorry, I said it when I messaged you the picks. Last night for me, I was like toughest next to the Tigers. Yeah. This really, really could go either way. The Tigers have not looked good the last couple of weeks. I remain on my stance that Benji Marshall should not have been dropped, but I'm beating a horse with a hammer on that one. The Cowboys have not looked great. They have sparks of brilliance. We saw that last week against the Warriors. Tabuai-Fidow back in the fullback role where he's played a lot of his football. They bring on Connolly Lemuelu.
I think so.
as a debutant winger, second one in a row. So congrats to him. Hopefully he does have a good game. For me, much like the Dragons and the Titans, as you said, Matty, this one's going to be won and lost in the halves. I think the Cowboys have a better forward pack. You have Josh McGuire at prop, and I mean, nothing needs to be said about Jason Taumalolo. If he's 100%, he's 30 tackles, 300 meters. It's just another game for him. The interesting thing for me is that the Cowboys have Ben Hampton on the bench.
Exactly.
Now, Hampton for the first 4 games played on the wing. Previously, he has played centre. He has played in the 6 and the 7, as well as the 9, and at fullback. Has come on as a roving forward. Like he's the Cowboys' Swiss Army knife. For those who watch the NFL, Taysom Hill, he's the equivalent. I just don't know where he's going to fit in. If Masters has another shocking game, does Paul Green drag Masters? Is he there to give Reece Robson a break? Reuben Cotter's now out of the 20, out of the 17. Are they going to switch it up, put Hampton at fullback, Tabuai-Fidow on the wing? There's a couple of possibilities there, but I think the halves play for the Cowboys has not been good the last couple of weeks. Clifford, I think, is starting to take on more of a role. Drinkwater's starting to drop down a little bit. Look, honestly, I could have played Eeny, Meeny, Miny, Mo. You can make points for and against both sides. I went the Tigers just because I think they've looked a little more consistent over the last couple of weeks. Defensively, they've been better. The defense has been much better. Alex Twal has been a surefire stop, or a surefire, a stop essentially. I've forgotten the word. I still haven't woken up yet. A brick wall. We'll call him a brick wall in the middle. No one's been able to get around him. Luciano Leilua named to play, but if he doesn't, Michael Cheekham is more than able to replace him there on that edge. You'll probably see Chris Lawrence come into the 17 then. Look, I'm going the Tigers, but I say that with no confidence whatsoever.
Yeah, so the things that swayed me as well is you've got Tabuai-Fidow playing fullback. He's only got 60 minutes of NRL experience at fullback. Whole different game than playing at juniors level. You got the young gun on debut, Lemuelu, I think his name is. I'm not sure. Apologies, I've probably just completely butchered his name. But putting Hampton on your bench is a vote in no confidence for me in either one of those two. For me, if you're going to put Hampton on your bench, you might as well have just played Hampton on the wing. Because if you're going to have him there, I get that you need the depth and cover now, especially with Green's going to be a little bit shaky on things because he lost Val Holmes so early last week, and he saw what it did to his team, losing somebody that can control a game the way that Val Holmes can. So I think there's an element of that as well. But you might as well have just started Drinkwater then. And then, like last week, move O'Neill onto the wing and pull one of your centres. Mitch Dunn played out in the centre for a little while. Just pull him into the centre there instead and just load your bench with another forward. If you look at the Tigers, they've no utility this week. They're going to come with a game plan, and it's going to be go down the middle. They'll have studied what the Warriors did last week. And Taumalolo is going to have a huge target on his head this week. He'll be annoyed with how he performed last week, but the Tigers are not going to make it an easy win back for him.
Joey Leilua and David Noifaluma are going to have a field day against Masters. That's where the Tigers, I think, will win it. They'll target Masters. They saw how poorly he defended last week. They'll target him. Last thing I want to point out before we move on to the game of the round Hampton's scored 4 tries in 3 games.
Yep.
He's currently in the top 5 in the league for tries. For someone who doesn't really play wing prior to this season, that's not a bad strike rate. So, maybe we see him back on the wing when Michael Walken gets back in 7-8 weeks' time. But yeah, I agree with you. Having Hampton on the bench poses more questions than it does answers anything.
Yeah. Okay. So then we will take a look at the Roosters versus the Eels. This one has classic written all over it based on how these two perform. Yet again, you have backed with your heart instead of your head. You silly, silly man.
I am a silly goober. Last week was 50-50 and I went head. Last week was 50-50. I went hard over head and it worked. This week it's probably more like 70-30 and I've gone hard over head. So this one will come back to bite me. I'm sure of it. No, who am I kidding? I'm a passionate Parramatta Eel supporter. We've got this one in the bag. Yeah.
I don't know how you can watch the level of abuse that the Dogs suffered last week and think, hey, the Eels are going to win this one. I don't know how you've even come close to that assumption. Even so, if you look at the Eels lineup, you're missing Evans. There you've lost a large part of your second phase game. The only person in the Eels team with more offloads than Evans is Matterson, and he's only got 2 more than him. So that's where the Roosters fall down. Second phase, they struggle against it from time to time. I don't see how the Eels pick them apart. I really don't.
So I think what will happen there is Maratini Ukore, when he comes on, will go into the lock role. Nathan Brown for 20-25 minutes will play prop. That will somewhat make up for the second phase play. Ukore, more of an inside runner, likes to come off the edge and dart through, but can play lock and can run through the middle. Terapo has a handy offload as well. Yeah, look, I absolutely went hard over head on this one. It is an away game technically for the Eels, but played at Bankwest. The spine has been fantastic this year. Haven't had to make a change. Marnie has been great out of dummy half. Dylan Brown, Mitch Moses working together like they've been together for 3 or 4 years. Gutherson, I wouldn't say form of his life, but he's played pretty well close to it. Madison's been our forward pack has been fantastic. You can't fault the Parramatta Eels forward pack. The issue that we are going to come up against with the Roosters is they have a towering winner in Daniel Tupou, who's going to go up against Blake Ferguson. It's going to be a fantastic battle in the air. But Tupou has that ability to catch over his head, whereas Fergo prefers to knock it back.
Yep.
With our forward pack, we win. I think we win the prop battle. Campbell Gillard and Paulo should get up over Takiaho and JWH, but we lose out in the fact that I think Victor Radley is a much more mobile lock than Nathan Brown. Nathan Brown is just a brute force runner. We saw that against the Panthers. He was superb. He was a big part of our comeback. But Radley has that ability, if he needs to dart out of dummy half as a lock, charge through 10, 15 meters, put on a little sidestep and get through some tired defenders. And part of our issue is that we don't necessarily always start the best. And one of our former guys, Dane and Kerr, he and I were talking about it 2 nights ago after the Roosters game. We basically said if Parramatta fall behind, we're screwed.
Yeah.
If Parramatta have a quick start, Parramatta win. If Parramatta fall behind 12-0, you might as well call the boys off the field now because the Roosters will win.
Yeah. But if you look at your head-to-head battles, straight away your big standout head-to-head battle is Joey Manu going up against Jennings. Jennings isn't the player that he used to be. He's not as physical as he used to be. I mean, he's in great form. He's still a great player. But coming up against someone like Joey Manu, who can carry the ball in one hand and palm you into, row C of Bankwest, he's freakish. I don't see how Jennings possibly defends against Manu, especially when you got Sevo, who's an absolute sucker for jumping the line. The amount of times you see him come too far in and leave Jennings out there on his own. You saw it against the Dogs. Somehow the Roosters managed to create a 3-man overlap on that right edge. If Sevo jumps the line, it's going to be a problem. The only potential question mark I have with the Roosters setup is Verrills on the bench and Butcher as well. So, I mean, is Jake Friend potentially carrying a knock? You saw him come out of contact in one tackle against the Dogs where he didn't look brilliant. But why Verrills? What are you trying to accomplish here? If you're wanting a little bit of manoeuvrability and a little bit more versatility, you should have just stuck with Tupanua. I thought he had a fantastic game last week. I have no idea why he's been cut from the squad this week.
Well, they're back to their strongest 17, I think, for one. I think the thing we've seen with Jake Friend over the last couple of years as well is his body's now made of ceramic glass. So having Verrills on the bench, he may not be used. There is a high chance he doesn't get used. But he also has the ability to come on for 10 or 15 minutes to give Vic Radley a break. Just dart around the middle, have some fun, play some unorganised football, come off the field huffing and puffing after 15 minutes of going full out, and Radley comes back on. Yeah, that's part of the reason I think as to why they have Verrills. My head says Roosters by 8. My gut and my heart says Parramatta by a field goal. I'd love to get a field goal win up over the Roosters. I've got a schooner on the line for when I get back into Sydney for the winner of this one. So knowing how expensive beer is here back in Sydney, that's $8 I'd save. But yeah, unfortunately, I think my head is saying Roosters. But we're not going to talk about it anymore. It's fine. We're just going to watch them play on Saturday. We're going to watch the Parramatta Eels get up.
Okay, Roosters by 10. Okay, so so we will move on then to the Raiders and the Seagulls. Seagulls obviously missing 2 key players in Moses Sully and Matty Tapau. How do you think that they fare against the Raiders? I mean, we both went Raiders, so I know how you think they'll fare, but what's your thought process?
Again, this is one of the ones I think are going to be a lot closer than we may give credit to. Manly still a top side in the competition on their day. Arguably, I think what are they 3-2 at the moment? Arguably should be 4-1.
Yep.
Garrick has been great on the wing there for Manly. Nothing needs to be said about Tommy Turbo. He's been fantastic. Their spine is starting to look good. Danny Levi has been great at the hooker role. But yeah, no Marty Tapau means they lose some oomph in their starting front row. They bring on Fanua Blake, which is a like for like, but can be caught out with being lazy at times. Teams have been able to keep Jake Trbojevic a bit quiet this year. The other thing for me is they've got Lockie Croker on at the 14. We've seen it in previous weeks. Croker in the 14 just isn't necessarily someone that they need there. As for the Raiders, I think we spoke about it on Monday with how the Raiders have got to work out the running game between the two halves. This may be the one game that it might work. Parker Elliott, Funa, 3 of the 4, center wings for me are not fantastic defenders. So if Whiten and Williams are able to find a little bit of space, they're able to get. They're both strong lads. If they can get themselves one-on-one with Parker Elliott, there's a high chance that they swat them away and go through the line. I think this is the one game where they could do that. And we saw last week, Tavita Funa may as well coat his hands with butter before the game. He'll come up against Kotrick, who isn't as strong in the air as Xavier Coates, but Funa does not look confident under the high ball. And it would not surprise me if we see White and Williams just pepper him with bombs from 20, 30, 35 metres out.
Yeah. So I'm leaning the same way. I think Funa, now he's got that debut game out of the way, I think he'll be a little bit more confident, and I think he'll have gone away and he'll have done his homework. Like you mentioned, Kotrick, not the best in the air, but still enough to challenge, especially if you put Funa under the high ball. I mean, any winger playing first grade can catch a bomb, So I don't think Funa's going to struggle so much under the high ball as much as he will do with the short kicking game and that decision making when it comes to what do I do when a kick's dribbled in behind me. That's what you saw Tabio Fido struggle with last week. Caught too high up in the line, kick over the top that undid him. I think Funa coming up against a short kicking game will be questioned. Garrick's a little bit more sure, but you mentioned the forward pack as well. They've got Paseka starting.
Mm-hmm.
Paseka's a really good prop, but I don't think he's a starting prop. He's a big body who's designed to go at tired middlemen sort of after 20, 25 minutes. So that's what they've lost with Marty Tapau. I just don't think when you look at that squad to a man that there's enough quality in that Manly side. Even when you look at the bench is pretty damning. Kepi, Boyle, Croker, Gazowski, there doesn't look to be the depth that the Raiders have. I mean, that they've probably got less than 100 games between them, that bench. Whereas you look at, the Raiders bench, Havili, Gula, Sutton, and Hudson Young as well. It looks like a stronger, more physical pack that's going to come in and just split them up the middle. And you see it with Hodgson time and time again when it comes out of the ruck, using Soliola on the edges and Papali as well, working it wide at Tapine and Whitehead. I just don't see Manly right now with how injury hit they truly are standing up in this one.
Yeah. Hudson Young returning from a suspension, it solves the little dilemma that we kind of threw up as to what they're going to do with that utility back on the bench. Simonson in the 19 now as well. So, a strong bench. Havili can play and, has very well played hooker as well as a roaming lock. Gula, Sutton, Young, just three strong bodies coming on. Manly with Kepi and Gazowski, not bad. Kepi is a big boy, a tall boy, much in the same vein as Fanua Blake, but only good for 25, 30 minutes. Bench depth, I think, is where the Raiders get Manly. I've got them up by about 8.
Yeah, I'm very much leaning the same way. I think Horsburgh is a question mark for me. I don't know why he's back at 13. I think Sutton should be given a shot at the 13 jersey and make Horsburgh earn it back after coming back from suspension. Sutton played a really good game last week. I get that he's a prop, but he's got a good bit of footwork on him, and he'll attract some bodies as well, especially if you've got him coming at you down the middle. In the same vein, I think this one's won in the later stages of the game. By no means is this one going to be a blowout, but I just think that as some of the bigger bodies start to tire, it's going to open up through the middle, and I'd say that the Raiders by 10, but it's only going to be the last 20 to 25 of the game where it really opens up.
Yeah.
Right. The other problem team that we discussed this week, the Sharks, they take on the Bulldogs. Both teams with a little bit of a reshuffle. Kennedy named at 1, which he should be rightly so. That should be Moylan's jersey to earn back. Kennedy's been playing really well. Johnson's still at 6. Townsend at 7. Moylan is on the extended bench, though, but I think that's more of a manage expectations kind of thing, where they'll basically go, if he's fit, we'll put him in, but we're not going to name him at 1 because basically we don't want people hammering us if he's not fit.
Moylan, we spoke about it with Fafita on Monday. Moylan is at the point where he has to think about his career now. He's too injury prone for never mind the Sharks, for himself. If he's able to get his injuries under control, get the body right, get going, string together a couple of games, absolutely, Matt, keep it going. But if he can't, he has to start thinking about whether it's time to step aside and finish off his career. As you mentioned, Kennedy, the one should be there, has some, for the most part, made that jersey his own. Look, I nearly went the Bulldogs in this one. I'm not going to lie. I very nearly went the Bulldogs. Foran has been superb in his couple of games coming back from an extended layoff. The thing that I'm slightly confused at is they keep naming Hopewadi in the one with Tenny Zalesniak in the centres and then flicking it around. But Avarillo on the wing, an interesting selection. Looks to be a good one. He only played 5 or 10 minutes on the wing against the Roosters, but looked his most dangerous on Monday night. Jeremy Marshall-King is having a fine season at hooker. Holland on the bench, an interesting one for me. We've seen that he's taken off Avarillo after about 60 minutes, but Holland doesn't play wing. So I'm curious to see whether they still take Avarillo off and slide Wateni Zalesniak out wide when Holland comes on. But Sharks here have to target Lachlan Lewis. Target Lockie Lewis. And, for the most part, it's going to be Sean Johnson's side charging towards Ramian. I think if Lewis has a similar defensive day to what he did against the Roosters, the Sharks are going to have a field day. Lewis will come up. They'll either flick it short to Ramian or I think it's Wade Graham on that side, or they go with out the back to Kennedy. Kennedy's already got a fantastic combination there with Katoa. It's going to be a piece of cake. Bulldogs have a strong forward pack, but I think the Sharks get them on depth on the bench. I'm going to say the Sharks by 6, but I could see the Bulldogs winning this one.
Yeah. So you're in the same position that I was, but then I saw the Bulldogs line up, and it just seems like they've not really learnt any lessons from last week. Wateni Zalesniak is... You've got to play him fullback. Hopewadi, I know that they keep on switching him around, but I don't think that that's like a we'll put him in as this and then we'll switch it around and that'll really fool everybody kind of scenario. I think that's just they can't genuinely make their mind up as to what their best combination is. Avarillo on the wing, I like it. That's a lesson learned. Good job. He's not proven himself as a standout centre yet. He was basically covering a gap. Kerrod Holland in the 14 jersey is probably the biggest question mark we've hit throughout this entire recording, because he has basically 2 positions that he can play. What do you do with him? Are you going to bring Avarillo off, move Wateni Zalesniak to the wing and put Holland inside him? What's your impact there? You're going after? Well, if he's going at that edge, you've got Dugan and Katoa. What are you going to do in that space? The Bulldogs are still without Tolman as well, who's a real leader for them. He's a big meter maker. When you look at their bench, Holland, Britt, Sue, Ogden, and then you look over at the Sharks bench, Rudolph, Hamlin, Uele, Talakai, and Hunt, it just seems like the Bulldogs have almost run out of players that they can field. because that doesn't look like a strong 17. That doesn't look
So-
like your best 17.
So you can look at the reserves list as well. You see Sorensen, Connor Tracy, Bryson Goodwin, Matt Moylan.
Yep.
So you got a couple of second rowers with a winger and a back utility. You go to the Bulldogs, where you have Sione Katoa, who's a hooker, Wakeham, a half, Harper, we'll call him centre wing, Cogger, a half. Where's
Where are
your
your
forward
forwards?
deck?
Yeah, where are your forwards?
And that's without Nick Meaney. So, look, it's hard to read into it based on reserves, but if you want to go that far deep, the Sharks could win this by 20. Realistically, the Sharks, I think the Sharks have it by 6 or 8.
Yeah, I wouldn't. If you're looking at a team on paper, you go, oh well, the Sharks have gone stripped to a man, basically, with the exception of maybe Napa, Hopewati on his day. You know, even Renouf Tuamoga's been playing really well. I've noticed him. He's been doing a really good shift in the forwards. But you look on paper and you go, oh, this is an easy Sharks win. Based on how the Sharks have been playing, it's tough to even pick them at the minute. But we still sit here going, this is Sharks by 8. That should really give the Bulldogs an idea of just how in the hole they are for a real sturdy pack at the minute. I mean,
like, don't get me wrong, the starting forward pack is very good, and they've got some really good players out the back. They've got Foran, who's a great player, Wateni Zelezniak, and Will Hopewati, consistent performance for the Bulldogs. But the rest, you're just like, on their day, yeah, but
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see. We will see.
Yeah, I think Foran's going to have a good game. I think Foran's been going from strength to strength since his return last week, grabbing a try, coming up just short of the line as well. He's been allowed to play instead of being the dominant half, and that's what I think why he's enjoying his footy again. So, I mean, yeah, you're right. They've got quality in that starting lineup, but the problem is that starting lineup doesn't play for 80 minutes, and that's as soon as those changes start being made and you see the quality coming in and out. That's where your issues are going to be had. But yeah, I'm going to say Sharks by at least 10 in this one.
Yeah, with you on that one.
Yeah. Well, that is our preview of all the rounds games done and dusted. This will be up shortly, so expect to see it late Wednesday. Yeah, thanks for tuning in. If you've enjoyed the content, let us know. Subscribe to our YouTube channel as well, so we are using that a lot more now. And no, thanks again for watching, and we'll see you for the round review. See you then.